You have the blueprint. You've designed your architect routine, and you've scheduled that sacred 90-minute keystone block for your most important work. The time arrives. You sit down at your desk, you open the laptop, you stare at the blank page, the empty canvas, the new project file, and nothing happens. A voice in your head whispers, "This has to be perfect." Suddenly, the ambition that drove you to create this system becomes a wall. The desire to do great work becomes the very thing that prevents you from doing any work at all. If you've ever felt this paralyzing pressure, you've been caught in the perfectionism trap. It is the most sophisticated and insidious form of self-sabotage because it disguises itself as a noble pursuit of high standards. Today, we're not just going to understand this trap, we're going to dismantle it piece by piece with a counterintuitive mindset shift that will finally set you free to do the work you were meant to do. The two faces of perfectionism. We've been taught to think of perfectionism as a humble brag, a good flaw to have. When asked our greatest weakness in a job interview, we say, "I'm a perfectionist," as if it's a secret superpower. But this is a dangerous oversimplification, because true perfectionism has two very different faces. On one side, you have what psychologists call adaptive perfectionism. This is the healthy pursuit of excellence. It's the drive that pushes an athlete to train harder, or a craftsman to refine their work. It's motivating. It fuels growth. It's focused on the process of becoming better. But then there's its evil twin, maladaptive perfectionism. This is the version that traps us. It is a paralyzing, irrational fear of not being good enough. This destructive form of perfectionism isn't actually about creating great work. It's about avoiding judgment. It hijacks your brain and shifts your entire focus away from the messy, iterative process of creation and puts it squarely on an impossible, flawless final outcome. It tells you that anything less than a masterpiece is a failure. And when faced with that impossible standard, your brain logically concludes that the safest option is to not even start. That is our enemy today. Not high standards, but the fear that paralyzes us before we even begin. The psychology, the all-or-nothing brain glitch. So why does our brain do this? Why does it create a standard so high that it becomes impossible to act? The answer lies in a common cognitive distortion that psychologists call all-or-nothing thinking. This is a mental glitch where your brain sees the world in black and white. There are no shades of gray. When you sit down to work on your keystone block, this glitch presents you with only two possible outcomes. One, a flawless, monumental success. You will write the most profound chapter ever written. You will create a design that wins awards. You will build a perfect system on the first try. Two, a complete and utter failure. Your work will be judged as mediocre, amateurish, and embarrassing. You will confirm your deepest fears that you are not good enough. Notice what's missing. There is no room for a pretty good first draft. There is no room for a learning experience, for an interesting mistake, or for simple, imperfect progress. Faced with this binary choice, procrastination suddenly becomes a brilliant defense mechanism. Your brain reasons, if I don't start the project, I can't fail at it. And so you stay frozen, protecting yourself from the imagined catastrophe of an imperfect outcome. The first step to escaping this trap is simply awareness. You need to become a detective of your own thoughts. The moment you feel that familiar paralysis, I want you to stop and label the thought. Say to yourself, there it is. That's the all-or-nothing glitch talking. Just by recognizing and naming it, you create separation. You realize that it's just a faulty thought pattern, a bug in your software, not an objective truth. It robs the thought of its power over you. But recognizing the glitch is like seeing the bars of the cage. It's a critical first step, but it doesn't unlock the door. How do you actually break free and get into motion? It requires a mindset shift so powerful and so counterintuitive it almost feels wrong at first. It's a concept I call productive mediocrity. The mindset shift. Productive mediocrity. I know what you're thinking. Mediocrity. I'm here to forge my path and be excellent, not mediocre. Hear me out. Productive mediocrity is the intentional act of giving yourself permission to create a B- first draft. This isn't about producing mediocre final work. It is about producing a mediocre, messy, imperfect start. This mindset is the key that unlocks the cage because it directly short-circuits the all-or-nothing brain glitch. It introduces a third option between flawless success and utter failure, the option of imperfect progress. Think of a sculptor. A sculptor who wants to create a masterpiece doesn't start by carving the delicate details of the eye. They start with a massive, rough, messy, mediocre lump of clay. They make big, rough, messy cuts to simply find the basic form of a head and shoulders. The masterpiece only emerges later through thousands of small refinements. You cannot refine and perfect something that does not exist. The perfectionist tries to sculpt the detailed eye in midair. It's impossible. Productive mediocrity is about giving yourself permission to create that initial ugly lump of clay. It's about generating the raw material that your high-achieving brain can then refine, edit, and polish into excellence later. This mindset is the why. It's the philosophical key to unlocking the door. But you also need a tactical how. You need a tool you can use the exact moment you feel that perfectionist paralysis creeping in to instantly break its hold and get your hands dirty. I'm going to give you a simple two-word rule that will do exactly that. The action. The create crap rule. The rule is simple, memorable, and a little shocking. I call it the create crap rule. This idea is inspired by a concept from the writer Anne Lamott, who famously gave permission to all writers to produce as shitty first drafts. This is the practical, tactical application of our productive mediocrity mindset. Here's how it works. When you sit down for your keystone block and feel the fear of perfectionism rising, you're going to do this. 1. Set a timer for 20 minutes. Use the Pomodoro technique. It's a short, non-intimidating block of time. 2. Your only goal is to create crap. For that 20 minutes, you will intentionally try to produce the worst, messiest, most cliché-ridden version of what you're working on. 3. Explicitly give yourself permission to fail. If you're a writer, write the most cringe-worthy sentences you can think of. If you're a designer, create the ugliest layout. If you're a coder, write sloppy, inefficient code. Why does this ridiculously simple rule work so well? Because it completely removes the pressure. It gamifies the process and makes it impossible to fail because failure is now the goal. You short-circuit the judgment center of your brain and you simply get into motion. And here's the magic. In the process of creating crap, you accidentally create that lump of clay. You'll produce a few bad ideas, but you'll also produce a few interesting ones. You will have words on the page. You will have shapes on the canvas. You will have something that you can now go back and refine in your next work session. You've beaten the blank page. The perfectionism trap is a prison we build for ourselves, but we also hold the key. Escaping it is a three-step process, a system for recognizing the problem, shifting your mindset, and taking immediate action. First, you see the trap by recognizing the all-or-nothing brain glitch. Second, you shift the mindset by adopting the philosophy of productive mediocrity. And third, you take action by using the create crap rule to generate momentum. Remember, perfection is the enemy of progress. The path to creating your best work is paved with all the good enough work you did along the way. Start there. You now have the tools to break free from perfectionism and finally start working on your most important projects. Starting is half the battle. Staying focused is the other. But what happens when you start working and 10 minutes in, your focus shatters? The modern world is an engine of distraction that bombards our brains, leaving something called attention residue that makes it nearly impossible to do deep work. In the next video, we're going to talk about how to build an unbreakable focus fortress to protect your time and finally unlock your ability to concentrate for extended periods. So you don't miss that, subscribe to Forge Your Path and hit that notification bell. And now, let's make a commitment. Comment below with the one project you've been putting off because of perfectionism. Just by naming it, you're dragging it out into the light and taking the very first step out of the trap. Thank you for being here. Now go create something wonderfully imperfect.